Okay, we're recording. Hey, sorry I had to miss you today, but craziness at the school and bad Wi-Fi, and sometimes being an adult is not fun. So we are going to take a look at that problem you sent me, and it's interesting to see where your class is going now. So I'm going to share my screen. Sure. So you're moving into rational expressions. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to be making you 3 videos. We're going to, first one, I want to make sure so that's my dog. First one, we're going to go over your homework question, and that way you could just kind of have that squared away and start getting comfortable with this, okay? The second video, I'm going to go back on some of the little hows and whys of what we're doing and kind of the tricks and the basic mechanics, so that as you move along with these on your own, you'll just be able to do it on your own. The third video I'm gonna do for you is going to be a similar problem, just so you can start seeing different numbers, different tricks, and how they evolve, because this one ends up in a certain format where a lot of your other similar rational expressions are not going to be that way. So, like I said, video 2 will explain some of the stuff I talked about. Let's move through this one though. So this is the problem you sent me. So -4 over x plus 5 plus 6 equals 7x x plus 5. And it's asking you to solve for x. And a lot of times in these problems, we also have to keep in mind that we need to make sure that we also have to solve for what x is not. And we went over this. So when we were doing the foiling method, the quadratic equation, we were trying to turn things into 0. Well, in a rational expression, for now, you cannot have 0 on the bottom of a fraction. Okay, just know that it is a thing when you get to calculus. For now, and where you're at in algebra right now, you cannot have 0 on the bottom of a fraction. So x cannot make this bottom part 0. So like we did when we were foiling, we want the opposite of this, because that would make it 0. Opposite of 5 is -5, because -5 plus 5 would be 0. X cannot be that. It's the same expression over here on the bottom, so it's the exact same answer. A lot of times in problems they'll be different, so you actually have to go through and make sure there can be several different answers that it cannot be. So we got that out of the way. We know what x cannot be. Now let's solve for x. And I'll go over this in the next video I do for you. But let's be honest, like, working fractions is gross. So let's get rid of fractions. And this one, so one thing we can do, remember we mentioned with the equations, I can do anything I want to an equation. Anything. The only thing is I have to do it to both sides of the equation. So I want to get rid of this x plus 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides. Let's make sure my little drawing thing works. All right, I'm going to multiply both sides by x plus 5. And the way I also do that is put it over 1. Okay, so x plus 5, anything over 1 is itself. So I haven't changed x plus 5. It's still itself. But now I can cancel out the x plus 5 here and the x plus 5 there, which in reality just kind of drops that -4 down to the bottom. So now we're not dealing with a fraction. But I still have to multiply the x plus 5 times this 6. I can't just ignore it. But that's probably not going to be the hardest part of this. So we just got to multiply every one of these times a 6. So x times 6. And remember, when we're doing a constant times a variable, we just kind of smush them together. So we get 6x. Oh, it's being difficult. We always run into this, huh? Why can't things just work for us? 6x. 6x. And then 5 times 6 is going to be 30. Okay. But remember the major rule. What we do to one side, we have to do the other. So we're going to go ahead over here and multiply this side times x plus 5. And we're going to run out of room. Come on. X plus 5. Good enough. Over 1. And the cool thing is it has the same denominator. So it's going to be the exact same thing. Those just cancel out. So it's going to just drop down the 7x. So this little mess we have here equals 7x. We got rid of the fractions. So it's a little more manageable because we tend, fractions are a little more, I think students kind of get scared by them. So now we got rid of them. So that should make it a little easier. So let's go back over to the left-hand side. Let's combine some like terms. All right, we don't have any x's, we just have the 6x. So we're just gonna go ahead and put the 6x there. Of course, we always have trouble with technology, don't we? All right, try and make that a little more manageable. Oh, all right, let's do from here. So we have our 6x because we have nothing else, but we have the two constants. So we have the 30 and the -4. Well, 30 minus 4 is going to be 26. All right, so we have plus 26. We don't have anything going on over there with the 7x, so we're just going to keep that. So we've kind of cleaned this up a bit, a little bit more manageable, combined all the like terms. Now it's just kind of starting to look like a regular equation, except we have x's on both sides. And remember when we were doing the quadratic equation thing, we were doing where we got everything on the right side over to the left so that the right-hand side was equal to 0. So we can still do that and it'll help us solve for x. So to get 7x to the left-hand side, and get it to equal to 0, we can subtract 7x. All right, because 7x minus 7x is 0. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. But what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So 6x minus 7x, that's an x. Ooh. Ooh. So -7 plus 6. We're still over on the negative side. That's going to be -x. All right, and then we have just the 26. We're just going to bring that on down. So what we end up having now is -x plus 26 is going to equal 0. So now let's just kind of think. There's two ways you can go about it at this point. We can factor out a -1, all right, to kind of make that x cleaner. And if we factor it out, basically it would change all the signs to everything. So if we multiplied or factored -1, that would make that positive, and that would make that -26. That's perfectly fine. And then anything times 0 is 0, so it doesn't change that sign. So we can either do that where we're multiply by 1, -1, And then we solve for x minus 26 equals 0. So x minus 26 is going to be 26 because 26 minus 26 is 0. Or, you can try to do it a little in your head and just, again, look at the opposites. Well, the opposite of 26 would be negative 26, but there is a negative sign there. Negative times a negative is positive, which is 26. Whichever way works best for you. They're both the correct answer. They're both perfectly fine. Your teacher will probably want you to multiply both sides by -1, so we can do that. So we multiplied both sides by -1. -1 times negative x just makes it positive, so we're just changing the sign. Like I said, -1 times 26 is going to make that negative 26. And then anything times 0 is 0. So we just kind of change the sign, and you kind of see a little more cleanly now that 26 minus 26 would equal 0. So x equals 26. And that is your answer as far as the problem. Now, what you're going to want to do just in future problems, just so you can see, is remember how we saw what x could not be? You are going to want to go back to the beginning and when you solved what x cannot be and just make sure that it's not that. And if it is, you would just throw that answer away. In this case, from what I recall when we started on this, we started off with 5 as not being able to be the answer. 26 is not 5, so we're fine. So that's that problem. Like I said, I'm going to do another video for you tomorrow on how we do some of these little things in between, because the whole just creating ones and creating numbers over themselves is going to be a very useful tool in doing rational expressions, and kind of just doing quick shortcuts so you don't do a lot of work. So that's the answer to that one on the homework question you sent me. X equals 26. And because this is math, we like to double check. So let me get out of this and we can double check that, I think. Technology. But technology doesn't want me to do it. So why don't you try that though? Why don't you go and substitute 26 into the original problem, see if it works out. Like I said, second video I'll do tomorrow. We'll go over what a rational expression is, looking for zeros, and just some of the tips and tricks on how to solve these. Because really that whole getting rid of the fractions is going to be really useful and helpful. And it is one more step, but I promise you, if you do it, you could probably eliminate like 10 other steps in the meantime. So I hope this helped you out in your homework, and I'll see you on video 2.